All right, well, I show 7 p.m., so I guess we can get started if you're ready, Bart.
Sure, no problem.
Well, with that, we will call to order the Visual Resources Review Board meeting for the town of Farragut. This would be the January 26, 2021 meeting. Hard to believe we're in 2021 already. Looks like we're ready to go tonight. I guess the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the December 2020 meeting. Board members, are there any comments or questions about the minutes from December? All right, sounds like we have none. So with that, I guess we need to vote. And I guess we'll do a roll call vote. Well, I guess I need to have a motion first, don't I? I don't want to forget that. So we have a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion by Ms. Hollyfield and a second by Ms. Moore. And so with that, if you'll do a roll call vote for us, please, Bart.
Okay, Mr. Armstrong.
Yes.
Ms. Hollyfield.
Yes.
Mr. Lehman.
Yes.
Ms. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Pinchuk.
Yes.
Ms. Stowe.
Yes.
And motion passes. Well, I guess Mr. Wright, but he's absent, or at least he hasn't joined yet.
I'm here, Bart.
Oh, okay. I missed you then.
Well, I had a little technical difficulties. My app somehow wasn't updated, so sorry about that. I'm on my phone tonight.
Okay, great. So it was a unanimous vote then.
Okay. Well, with that, let's move down to item 2 on the agenda, which is the ground-mounted sign applications. So tonight we have one for Rising. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Health Family Chiropractic tenant panel at 11657 Parkside Drive. So this is an existing multi-tenant sign, ground-mounted sign, and then we're just changing one tenant panel. So if that, staff would provide their comments.
Yeah, that's exactly what the case is here. It's just a replacement tenant panel for a new business that's going in. It's out there on Parkside Drive. They've redesigned it once to make it a little bit more visible. I think it's improved the design that they have here, and it seems to be legible and in line with what else is on the sign face. So staff can recommend approval of it.
All right, with that, we'll go through our normal process here, and we'll go through and ask each board member if you have any questions or comments for the staff. And today we will start with Mr. Rogers. So, Jake, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I think it looks good. No comment.
All right, Mr. Armstrong?
No comment.
All right, Mr. Wright?
I have no comments.
Okay. Ms. Moore?
I think it's workable and think it looks good.
Okay, Alderman Pinchuk?
I pass.
All right, Ms. Stowe?
I think it looks great. I like it.
Ms. Hollyfield?
It looks good. No comments.
Well, I think that's fairly unanimous. It looks very, very easy to read and legible. So I have no further comments myself. So do we have a motion on this item?
Motion to approve.
I'll second it. Alderman Pinchot.
Motion to approve by Ms. Hollyfield and a second by Alderman Pinchot. Is the applicant present tonight? Okay, I don't hear anyone. So were there any citizen comments we need to read into the record?
No, sir.
Well, I'm going to guess there's no amendments to the motion, but I'll ask quickly. All right, and hearing that, time for a roll call vote.
Okay. Mr. Armstrong.
Yes.
Ms. Hollyfield.
Yes.
Mr. Lehman.
Yes.
Ms. Moore.
Yes.
Alderman Pinchuk.
Yes.
Ms. Stowe,
Yes.
Mr. Wright.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
All right, so we'll move down to item 3 on the agenda, the landscape plan applications. And so we're talking about existing commercial site here, which was for those that have been in the Farragut area for some time will remember that Blockbuster was the anchor tenant in. It feels like a long time ago now that it's in there. 11135 Kingston Pike. So it looks like they're doing some landscaping alterations around the building, and so I'm over to staff for your comments.
Okay, this is a plan basically to take out some of the existing trees that are on the site. Some of them haven't fared very well, some are a little overgrown, and to replace them. Actually, the second page here is their tree removal plan. It shows what they're taking out and what they're keeping. All of the work is going to be either to the side of the building or in front of the building. They're not doing any work behind the building. Actually, Mark and I and Holly went out there and met with a landscape architect. It seems like it was back in the summer. So that we had almost forgotten about this, and they submitted it a couple weeks ago. So it's just an attempt to clear out some of the landscaping that hasn't done very well, to replace particularly the stuff that are in the islands and there at the front a bit. And I did have some subject twos on that are in the memo. They didn't do their calculations quite right. I think they have adequate trees there. They just need to correct their table and the way they did the math on how many trees are required. There's one species that was listed as a shade tree that can't be used under our standard, but again, I think they're going to have enough. And then a couple of editorial notes to modify planning note 11, that indicating that staff approval would also be required for any substitutions of species, and to correct the address on the plan. It's an odd center. That's actually a correct address. It's just that the KGIS address is 11135. That's just one of the tenant spaces in there. That the one that's on the plan there, that 11149. So, and then just to get a clarifying note that there is no work being done behind the building. And apart from those pretty minor corrections to the plan, it appears to be okay.
All right. Let me go through it and see if there's any questions or comments for staff. We'll start at this time with Ms. Hollyfield. Any questions or comments?
Yes. What did they replace the eastern? It was kind of hard to see. I think Ron had mentioned that too on some of our screen with the plants. What did they decide to replace? I assume you're talking about the shade tree of the eastern hornbeam. What did you just suggest for that?
Actually, I haven't heard back from them. I've tried to contact them twice about making these changes. I actually sent them the staff memo and the whole packet. So they haven't really addressed that. Although I don't think it's a problem. I think they have enough shade trees without it. It's just a matter of they just can't count that in the table as a shade tree. If they do come up short when they redo the numbers, they'll just have to come up with a alternate one or two trees to
So they're going to actually still keep that particular tree then, if correct then? Is that what I'm hearing?
As far as I know, unless they decide to do something, in other words, when they make their changes.
Okay, and I was a little confused about the numbers. What did you say about the numbers? So what's going to be on the panel? I mean, is it 11135 or?
Well, we're asking them, since they're going to have to make some other changes to the plan, to just go ahead and put the address on there that matches the main KGIS parcel number, which is 11135. If they weren't making it, if they didn't have to make any other modifications to the plan, I wouldn't worry about it. I would
Right.
just scratch it out. But since they're going to have to, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, that's all I have.
All right, Ms. Stowe, questions or comments? I think you might be on mute. Are you saying you don't have any comments? I think.
Yes. I'm saying I have no comment.
I'm trying to read lips there.
I'm sorry.
All right, Alderman Pinchot.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand the motion. Does it include the subject twos, or do we have to amend the motion to make sure that they're included?
So we haven't made a motion yet, but I think when we make one, we would have to specifically state the subject twos for them to be included in the motion. Is that what you're?
That's all I'm concerned about. Make sure all these things are covered before it's approved. So I would make sure that those are included in the motion when we make it.
Once we start making a motion, we need to include all the subject twos in that. Absolutely. All right, Ms. Moore, questions, comments?
I just have a question about the ground mounted sign. I didn't see it on the plan. Is it on there, and are they planning on adding one? I don't recall where it is on the site, but I saw in the removal and the addition of the trees, those 3 that don't count as shade trees are being added on the corner where the entrance is to the parking lot. And when we think about ground mounted signs, that's normally a spot to put it. So I was just curious if that had been looked at as far as where they're putting the trees and where, if they were going to replace or put a ground mounted sign, where it would be.
I don't think they're planning on changing that, and it's right over there where the, hang on a minute, you can see it. It's very faint, but it's, well, I didn't want to do that. Hang on a minute. It's right up in this area where I was starting to go there. Hang on a minute.
I see it. So it's underneath those 3 trees at the corner.
Yeah, that's it right there.
That would be my only concern, is that they're blocking that with those 3 additional trees that they're putting there.
I guess they're assuming they'll limb them up a little bit to cover that. So so they're not blocking the limbs of the trees aren't going to block the sign, but I can point that out to them.
I would even think the root structure and, just thinking about where the tree is placed. Because right now, the way that it looks, it's being placed right in front of the sign. The one is.
Yeah. That's a good point. I'll pass that on to them too with my, with those subject twos.
It looks like those are shade trees too. And we sure don't want 3 big shade trees right in the front there, do we?
That's their choice as to whether or not they want to do that. They're clearing out part of the area. They do have to, have shade trees within a certain distance of all parking spaces. So I think they wanted to get some of the larger trees out of the islands in the middle, and so, but they still have to get adequate coverage, and so they're going to have some in the front to meet the requirements for shade trees.
How about the other corner, the eastern corner?
Where there's not an entrance?
They're leaving those trees there.
Mm-hmm.
So these are all shade trees right in here now.
It looks like
Major
that they're
objective.
removing Bradford pears and crepe myrtles from there, so it looks like there's already some trees. But if they do replace those with something else other than a shade tree, if they're okay on their shade tree number, maybe they could put something else that's not as limiting to the site of the sign, I think maybe would help their visibility there.
Yes, because their main objective would be for people to see the sign. Good point.
And entrance and exit, because that's not a very friendly spot coming around that
Right.
corner, with the traffic there.
Exactly.
Well, that's actually the 3 trees there by the sign are actually the hornbeams. The
Right.
That's what I was wondering, because those get fairly large, don't they? Brittany, you know all about that with your dad. Don't they get fairly large?
I looked up what they were, but I mean,
They're not as big as the other shade trees that are proposed. I mean, they're not, they don't have a really big crown spread.
They don't?
No,
Okay.
I can't recall right off, but I did the same thing. I Googled them and to see what their mature dimensions are.
So when we're starting to, do we need to have this as an added subject to, or are you?
Yeah, if you want, just call their attention to the sign.
That was a great point that she made, because their objective definitely is for us to see, for people to see it.
Yeah, I think that was a great point you made there, and that is kind of interesting as I'm looking at it too. I see that there's some willow oaks that were across the front that they're removing. Maybe the intent is to open that space area up so that you can see the buildings more clearly. And then they're moving those trees over in front of the sign, but then that of course hurts the visibility of the sign.
Exactly.
I'm not sure what the understanding is there, why the reasoning is for that. So,
well, again, the landscape architect that did the plan was, he may have been trying to make sure that he had trees that were all, that would get all the parking spaces within the right distance from a tree. Because under our standards, I think it's every parking space has to be within 100 feet of a shade tree and 125 feet of 2 shade trees. So in order for them to get adequate coverage, they have to disperse them around the site.
okay.
so if those aren't considered shade trees, do they still meet that requirement then?
Yeah, I actually loaded this up into the software we use for a PDF working tool. It's called Bluebeam, and I was able to put radiuses on everything, and it met. So they could probably change 1 or 2 of those out to get better visibility of the sign and still not have a problem with their shade tree requirement.
Yeah.
That's maybe what I would propose to.
I'll bring that to their attention.
Great, thanks. That's all I have.
Okay.
Good stuff. Any additional comments, questions, Mr. Wright?
No, sir. I think we covered that. I was going to comment on those trees. Similar. Brittany was certainly more thorough than I was, but similar thought process. Unrelated. Bart, you may have said it. Apologize if I missed it when you said it, but is what's in that building or what's going in that building? I know you talked about the owners or the landscape architect a bit here, but I'm just curious, what's going in that building right now? What's happening there?
Actually, I'm not sure what's going in there. I'd have to check.
No, that's okay. If you happen to know, I'm just curious, but
No,
otherwise, no, I have no other questions.
All right, Mr. Armstrong.
No other questions. My only comment would be Bart does his homework.
All right, Mr. Rogers.
I can't think of anything.
It sounds like we've covered it pretty well then. So with that, I don't have anything else to add, except I think that was a great observation by Brittany, and everything else seems to be in order. We need to make sure we cover all the subject twos that were presented by staff, and also the added item that Brittany came up with there. So with that, does anyone want to present a motion on this one?
This is Alderman Pinchuk. I'll move for approval with the all of the subject twos included and also the one that Brittany brought up.
Now we have a motion by Alderman Pinchot. Do we have a second to the motion?
I'll second.
I'll second.
All right. Sounds like Mr. Wright jumped in there for a second. So, okay. Is the applicant present? All right. Doesn't sound like that's the case. Any citizens' comments?
None on this one.
Okay. I'm going to guess there's no amendments again to this motion since there's no other comments, but just in case. All right. Well, hearing no amendments, if you would proceed to a roll call vote.
Mr. Armstrong,
Yes.
Ms. Hollyfield,
Yes.
Mr. Lehman,
Yes.
Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Alderman Pinchot,
Yes.
Ms. Stowe,
Yes.
and Mr. Wright. Mr. Wright? Okay, he must have lost audio. So, regardless, the motion passes.
Okay. Well, that's the last item on the agenda for this month. Is there anything else we need to cover or that we need to know about, Bart?
No, that's it.
Okay. Well, I hope everyone out there stays safe and healthy, and hopefully you can all get vaccinated soon and we can get back to life. So I'm guessing at this point we'll remain virtual for the foreseeable future. Would that be the right guess?
Yeah, I think that's the plan.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll see everybody again next month this way.